and outdoor scenes. Design your space, let your garden dreams glide. Personal touch with our garden design. Free sessions to blend within your budget line. From tiny seeds to trees so grand. Every leaf and bird, it's all at hand. Hello, hello plant, welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello plant, in every shade and hue, for every heart and every hand, we've got something for you. Now everybody, let's say hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello plant, welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello plant, and every shade and hue, for every heart and every hand, we've got something for you, just for you. In the morning sun, where the flowers bloom, colors burst like a painter's dream come true. Roses red and violets blue, every petal whispers something new. From tiny seeds to trees so grand, every leaf and bird, it's all at hand. Hello, hello plant, welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello plant, in every shade and hue, for every heart and every hand, we've got something for you. Indoor greens and outdoor scenes. Design your space, let your garden dreams glide. Personal touch with our garden design. Free sessions to blend within your budget line. From tiny seeds to trees so grand. Every leaf and bird, it's all at hand. Hello, hello plant, welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them.
Maybe a feature tree, maybe a screening hedge, anything like that. This is the space to ask those questions and get them answered by Chris here. Now, Chris has been working for decades in the gardening industry and has both hands-on expertise and also the theoretical knowledge to back up all the answers he gives. So definitely a great space to come with your questions. Now, how it works, if you've been coming for a while, you'll know, but for anyone new here, it's super simple. All you need to do is comment your question, and then I'm gonna ask it to Chris and he's gonna answer it in live time. So if you have any follow-up questions, you're welcome to comment again, and I can then follow up with Chris about any further, more specific questions you have. And yeah, that's it. So we run these every Monday, same time, for about 45 minutes. And We're on multiple different platforms, so if your question isn't answered immediately, it's just because I'm looking at a different platform. So yeah, we can get right into it. How are you doing today, Chris?
Great, thanks. Beautiful. There's almost a spring feel in the air. It's beautiful sunny day, and yesterday I think we had a high of 17 degrees. So I think we'll be starting to see a few spring blossoms pretty soon, and we're starting to get. I'm only wearing 2 jumpers today instead of 1, so it's certainly heading towards spring.
Very exciting indeed. I think we're all quite over winter and ready for some warmer weather. We're going to get straight into it with the first question. Would you do a home consult in Geelong? If so, how much?
I'd need $500 to do that, and I could come down and have a look at the job, but I'd love to have a chat with that person first, because I'd rather do it in store, because what happens is that if I have photographs and measurements of the property, and I could say, look, I think you should grow a row of snow pearls here. I don't know what I'm going to say to a person. So when I go on site, I might say, look, you need a row of snow pearls there. And they say, what do they look like? Well, here, I'll go get a snow pearl and I'll put it on the desk right in front of us and we'll talk about it. I just had a chap, and I was just before I was designing around his pool, and he come from Altona, and I was able to put all the plants on. I was able to whip out, get the plants and put them all on the desk and discuss the size and price and the whole thing, and it was very real. So but I mean, there are certain circumstances where the property is very unusual dimensions or some very unusual aspect that sometimes requires a home visit. So I have had properties that have to have a home visit, but more often than not, I would rather take less money, like a 45-minute here is only $100, and then you get that back when you buy your plants. But I'd rather do it in store in most cases, and I feel I can do a better job in store. And normally I have a landscape architect working at my side, and the 2 of us do a fabulous job together, and you don't get the 2 people on. So unless it's a very special circumstance, I believe we'll do a better job for much less money in store.
Yeah, amazing. Next question is from Katie. Why do I always struggle to grow lavender in pots? They seem to die.
That's an interesting problem. Okay, so lavender, it's the easiest thing. I remember I've got people to fertilise my nursery and go around and fertilise everything at certain times of the year, and they've put a decent dose on the lavender and they've died. So excess lavender comes from sort of Europe, from areas that are kind of fairly arid. It's a plant that grows sort of on the edge of a desert almost, and fairly infertile. So a big dose of fertiliser, too much water and too much fertiliser can basically kill your lavenders. And I think to grow them successfully in a pot, you want to use a really good quality potting mix and be very, very thrifty with the fertiliser and a little bit mean with the water.
Amazing. Next one is, any tips on planting a 2-metre teddy bear magnolia, do's and don'ts?
Do's and don'ts. Well, look, the main thing is your magnolias love a bit of nice, loose, well-drained soil. So dig a nice big hole, and this time of year what you would want is you wouldn't want them to be sitting in water. So what you can do is you can actually flood the hole with water and see if it drains away within half an hour. Now, if the water just sits at a certain level, what you need to do is mound it up and then plant it above where the water's not going to drain. So I do a little testing of the and this is something that would apply not just to magnolias. If you're planting a maple or any other sort of really nice tree, you can dig a hole, flood it with water, and see how long it takes for the water to drain away. And if it takes more than an hour or so, you've got to raise that plant up. And then in raising it up, you'd mix in some potting mix with your normal soil, and then you'd finish it off with a nice, this time of year, nice dose of a slow release fertiliser like an Osmocote, and maybe a little bit of soil wetter just to finish it off. So I'd be using some potting mix. I'd be testing the drainage in that situation and possibly mounding or raising it up a little.
Amazing. Next question is from Kate. Can we access Chris and the landscape architect via the online consultations, or is it just Chris? Canberra is a long way from Campbellfield.
You can do a Zoom consult, and we can actually even ship plants into Canberra for you. And although it's the plant price in Canberra are fairly expensive and the range is a little bit limited, if you're doing a whole garden, If you just want 1 or 2 plants, it's not very economical to ship them into Canberra, but if you want a whole garden lot, we can put them in Canberra for less than the local nurseries will. But and we can do a Zoom garden design for you, so no problem at all. And a 45-minute Zoom at the moment, we're actually going to put the price up on the Zooms, but right now a 45-minute Zoom is $100, and you get that $100 back when you buy your plants.
Amazing. Next question is from Jessie. Do you still have any kumquats?
I'm pretty sure we do, and if there weren't many in stock after the weekend, we certainly could get them in for you. Let us know what size and what variety. My favourite kumquat is the Nagami, and actually it's a funny thing, as I drove to work, I'm looking for opportunities to do videos and just admiring gardens, and the first thing I saw that I really liked this morning on my way to work was a Nagami kumquat in a garden, absolutely covered in beautiful orange fruit. Looked absolutely fabulous, and I was thinking it'd be a really nice time to do and I love kumquats because they have beautiful fruit all year round. And I first fell in love with a kumquat when I was a kid because my grandma had a kumquat in a concrete tub on the steps as you came up into the house, and it was there for about 20 years, and whenever we went there we'd get a little jar of kumquat jam, all from this one little kumquat plant. So wonderful, productive, beautiful plant, and the Nagami really is a great Nagami or Calamund, and two of the best. And if we don't have them in stock, we'd certainly get them in for you quick smart.
Great. Next question is about finger limes. I'm in the Gascoyne, I don't think I'm saying that right, Gascoyne region in WA. Above the 26-degree parallel, can't keep them growing. They get to 2 feet high and then just stop growing.
That's an interesting problem. I would be wondering how you're growing them. I think if you were to perhaps grow them in a big tub with some really good quality potting mix, you could be pretty right. Because and maybe the other thing is that there's different varieties. What we could do is we could talk to our supplier and find out a good one for your sort of subtropical, tropical regions. I think that would be the other thing. Is let's make a note of that and make sure that you've got the right variety there. Because the finger limes they grow wild over quite a big part of Australia, and they do grow quite well in tropical regions. So it would only be a matter of having a variety suited to tropical regions, and we have a very good expert supplier. And if you had the right variety, good soil, and plenty of Osmocote, you'd have to be in business.
Amazing. Yeah, TJ, if you could actually DM us, just because once this live ends, we lose all our comments and we have no way of contacting you. So if you can either email us, hop over to our website and email us, or message us on TikTok, then we can have like a record of this conversation and get back to you about that. Moving on, from Bianca we have, when is the best time of year to trim Viburnum awabooki?
Okay, I'd be trimming in early August, and the reason I wouldn't be trimming right now, and I wouldn't have trimmed a month ago, and the reason is that right now your awabooki is photosynthesizing and collecting energy, and then in late August or early September it's going to start shooting and growing. And so what you want is the shooting and growing in the right spot, and you want it to shoot and grow with as much energy as possible. So you cut it as late as possible. So I'd imagine the first or second week in August, it'll still be quite dormant. Give it a good prune. It should have a good lot of the solar energy inside it, and then it should boom away at the end. And you could even give it a bit of Osmocote or something right at the start of that to kick it off.
Amazing. Next question is, would you expand your office in Sydney?
I'm working on improving our delivery and improving things, and certainly I'm really keen to do Sydney, and my plan is to do Sydney out of Victoria, because plants are much cheaper, and we have an amazing nursery industry here, and I'd love to give Sydney siders direct access into the Victorian nursery supply. So long term, I intend to do Sydney. But perhaps not with a nursery there, maybe just with my bands delivering.
Amazing. Next question is it true that all indoor plants need to be watered once a week?
No, not true. I'm just thinking it's pretty cold. Like I'm only, in my house I've only got the heaters on of an evening when I'm home, and so it's pretty cold all day there. and I've been carefully. I've got a beautiful big in the lounge room. I've got a beautiful big Ficus benjamina nearly up to the roof, and I've got a lady palm that's about 6 foot tall. And what I do is I kind of watch them, and somehow I can see how the leaves turn. I can see when they need a drink, and I reckon I'm giving them a good drink about every 2 weeks at the moment. And if I was to do it every week, I'd be overwatering them a little bit. And the thing is, you don't want to. Plants need oxygen, and you really don't want to be overwatering your indoor plants. And so, but whereas if I had central heating on all day, I reckon once a week would be the answer. So really what I'm trying to say is that you really have to use judgment. You have to, is it a cold, icy cold room? Is it a warm room? Are you in a sunny window? You've really got to use judgment and set rules like once a week. It might not be enough in a warm room, and it might be way too much in a cold situation like what I've got at the moment. So I don't think there's any substitute. There's no hard and fast rule. There's no substitute for being able to have a look at your plant and use a little judgment. Like it's a funny thing. I'll be heading off to work or something like that in the morning, and I'll walk past that ficus, and somehow I just see that the leaves are a little bit twisted. Oh, it needs a drink, and I give it a drink. And so there's no. And I think this applies to watering everything. There's no substitute for a little bit of judgment and a little bit of understanding of the weather and various different things to choose when things should be watered.
Yeah. Our next question is, do you have 3-foot iceberg roses available for delivery in Melbourne?
We sure do. We actually have about 1,000 3-footers in stock, and it's an interesting thing. We most of the rose growers dig all of their roses in April, and most stores have run out. And I've got a wonderful grower in South Australia, and he grows a really good gutsy rose. And we should even get someone to bring a nice 3-footer in, and we'll show them. But he grows a beautiful gutsy rose, nice thick stem on it, big chunky roots, big bushy head, beautiful rose. And we could get someone to get a nice 3-foot rose. But anyway, so he grows a beautiful rose, and he digs a late batch for me. And so mine were actually growing in the paddock out west of Adelaide just last week. And he's dug them, sorted them, bundled them up, and sent them over to me. And I've got them hilled in out the front. And I've got 1,000 of them in stock, and we're very, very busy at this time of year because and we've got them at a really good price. Our price, we have actually, for some reason, the chap who does he does a long 2-footer, like they're about 2.5 footers, 2-footers, and we got them for $16.99, and then we've got 3-footers, a real 3-foot. No, we want a bare rooted one, a bare rooted iceberg. Get one of the boys to grab it. And then the 3-foot icebergs are $29.99, and I was down at one of the big stores, I won't mention any names, the other day, and a 3-foot, they're around $60, so good price.
Amazing. Next question is, I have about 40 pomegranate trees and 40 fig trees. Sorry, the screen just went black. Hold on, let me go back to that question.
Hang on, we've got them up here, we've got the question up here.
No, those are the other. Oh, here we go, we're back. Sorry, the screen just went black for no reason. I have 40 pomegranate trees and 40 fig trees. How and when do I prune them and get good fruit?
Right, okay. So I think early August would be the time to be pruning them. And I guess you've got to prune them to, I wonder how old they are. So I wonder how old they are. Like, don't just prune them for the sake of pruning them. Like, if they're young, you just prune them a little bit here and there just to get the shape, get a nice full shape on them.
They're 15 years old.
Oh, 15 years old. So yeah, so now you should be pruning them, and you would prune them. You'd prune them in early August.
Amazing.
And you'd be your fig will fruit on first year wood. Although the figs often have quite a few, and so you want to thin the wood out so that you've got some first year wood for early fruiting, and then you'll get your secondary fruiting on the second lot of wood. So you would kind of, and same with the other one with your pomegranates. Don't cut them right back hard. thin out the branches, and the next year those branches that you leave this year you could prune back next year, sort of so that you keep some old and new wood happening, and that'll encourage more fruiting.
Amazing. Next question is, how to help hellebores grow well, especially in the beginning? We planted them recently, which gets part shade in winter morning. How to maintain its shade in summer while Magnolia solangiana is still growing?
Right, okay. So we used to, when I was a kid, I don't know if you live out in the bush or anything like that, but you can cut bracken fern and poke it in. We used to make shade houses when my dad was kind of had a new nurse and he was really struggling to get going, and he couldn't afford any sort of actual shade over his beds, and we'd actually cut a bracken fern and poke the bracken fern in, and that makes a beautiful shade. But so and bracken fern will dry up and last for months and months and months and make a beautiful shade house. So going in the bush and cutting a bit of bracken fern would be a way that you could create a sort of a shade over. But if you cut some sort of a other branch or something like that and just have that above your hellebores to promote the shade, but also well watered and fertilised, a hellebore will take a surprising amount of sun. And then if you your magnolia is very much a gross feeder, so what you do is you give it plenty of fertiliser, Osmocote's fine, and then pump it with water to get good growth in spring.
Amazing. Next question is, when would you recommend pruning a plum tree? What time of year is best?
Okay, so I think right now you'd be pruning your plum, and again you wouldn't. So what have we got here? Is that a 3-footer?
Oh yeah, it's a 3-foot.
Get them to get a 3-foot iceberg, okay? Go to one of the boys to get a 3-foot. Get them to get a 3-foot iceberg, and let's get it bare rooted. No need to wrap it up. Get them to get you a 3-foot iceberg. So where are we at?
When would you recommend pruning a plum tree?
Okay, I'd prune it right now, and again, don't cut all of the last year's wood off. Sort of thin it out a little bit, and then you can thin it out a bit more next year. So don't cut off all of last year's wood.
Yeah. Next question is, in response to the expanding delivery to Sydney, wouldn't it be expensive getting it delivered from Melbourne to Sydney rather than buying from Sydney directly? No. What you would need to do is you'd need to make stillages and take those stillages overnight on a semi-trailer, because a van would be way too expensive, but you'd use stillages on a semi-trailer, unpack them. But with the price of real estate and water in Sydney, that's why plants are so expensive in Sydney. Sometimes when I look at plant prices, they're sometimes 3 times the price of what they are here. So it's the high water cost and the high real estate cost which makes Sydney expensive, and also it's a bit of a closed market. There's not much competition there, so it's those factors. And so the way to get the biggest and best range would be semi-trailer overnight, and then vans delivering during the daytime, and have people buy online. Yeah. Next question is there a good fast-growing native hedge you would recommend in Canberra? Oh wait, we'll first do that.
Fast-growing native, I would go fast-growing native. A fabulous thing, and I've had some great successes with it, is Dodonia Mr. Greensheen. So Dodonia Mr. Greensheen, beautiful evergreen, really tough, frost hardy, heat hardy, poor soil hardy, grows like a rocket, doesn't get too big, really pretty foliage on it, dense and green, really extra reliable. So Dodonia Mr. Greenscreen, beautiful fast growing hedge for the Canberra situation. Now I was just going to show you here, and I wonder how we can get this in. This is our South Australian bare rooted 3-foot icebergs, and what you'll see is that you've got good root system on them. These are just freshly dug from the field, and you've got really nice sturdy trunks, and they've de-eyed them, so you're not going to get suckers up and down the stem. They've been nicely de-eyed, and then they've got, and have a look here, you've got a 2 buds on the head, so you've got a nice full head on it. So that and if you plant that now, by the end of October you'll have a nice bushy little head with nice iceberg flowers on it. So there you are. That's your 3-foot iceberg, and from South Australia. And the 2-foot icebergs are $16.99, and the 3-footers are $29.99.
Amazing. Next question is, we have an Acis and khaki maple that's about 8 feet tall. Is there a particular way to prune them, and what time of year should that be?
I think I would wait till first or second week in September, and just before it leaves up. And then what you'd be looking to do is you'd be looking to promote, you'd be getting rid of some of the older wood on it, you'd be looking to promote nice long red stems on it. So you'd take it back. You wouldn't take the whole thing back, you could take it back in part, like say take 50% of it back fairly hard to promote some bright new growth on it. And also you might be pruning to outward buds to sort of cause it to grow in a sort of a vase shape. A vase shape would be the ideal shape.
Yeah. Next question is, where is the best place to buy roses in Adelaide?
Wow, Adelaide is the rose growing home, the home of growing roses. Yeah, the number one producer of roses is Knight's Roses. Now they're a wholesaler, but I reckon if you were to ring up Knight's Roses, speak to the reception there. I don't know the retail market that well in Adelaide, but I would ring up Knight's Roses, and I would talk to them and find out who the best rose retailer is over there, and they would know because they'd be supplying them. So Knight's Roses, number one producer in South Australia, and they will know who would be the best person to go to. So ring up Knight's, and they won't sell. Don't try and buy from them; they won't sell to you. But find out who you should be buying from, and they'll give you one or two really good suppliers around Adelaide.
Yeah. Next question is, how often to give fertiliser for recently planted trees and plants/shrubs? We are in Sydney Southwest.
Okay, I would be using Osmocote is really good, and when most of what you sell they'll label as 12-month, and I think because it breaks down in hot conditions and things like that, I think if you were to use a good the recommended dose of Osmocote, but do it every 6 months, they'll be well fertilised.
Amazing. Next question is, I air layered a branch from my lemon tree. Will it have any problems with disease because it's not grafted?
No. I think you'll find that the non-grafted lemons are maybe not as longer living, but you'll still get 15 or 20 years out of it, and they're not as sort of disease resistant. They're not quite as strong, and they don't grow as big. They're not as disease resistant, and they're probably not going to last quite as long. But you can still get a really good life from a cutting grown lemon, and more I'm seeing cutting grown lemons on the market, and they suit a lot of people because the cutting grown lemon or layered lemon, as you've done in your case, is going to be a more compact plant than the grafted lemon. So it's going to make it particularly good for a pot. A cutting grown one is particularly good for a big pot. So there's nothing wrong with layering your lemon. Just it's going to be cheaper to do. It's going to perhaps not live quite as long and not grow quite as big.
Yeah. Next question is, hello from Betheridge. What camellias would you recommend that are frost tolerant?
They're all frost tolerant, but I reckon my favourite camellia in a japonica would be a volunteer. And volunteer is amazing because the flowers actually change colour through the season. So you start off with a deep pink flower and end up with sort of a lot of white in the flower. So they actually change through the season. Amazing looking flower, and it's one that'll take porous soils. It'll take a lot more sun than most other japonica camellias, so that would be great. And another favourite camellia would be one called Hiryu, which is a sasanqua, very tough, fast growing, tough, really great camellia. So two of my favourites, one would be Hiryu and the other one would be Volunteer. And if you Googled them and had a look at them, you'll find they're both very beautiful camellias.
Yeah. Next question is, do you provide online consultations if we share the yard pictures to get feedback and advice?
I missed the end of that question, sorry.
Do you provide online consultations if we share the yard pictures to get feedback and advice?
Yeah, sure, we do. You can get a 20-minute, depending on how much you've got to do, you can get a 20-minute or a 40-minute, and we do it on Zoom. Occasionally the Zoom doesn't work and we do it just by a FaceTime. And you can book in, and you pay, for a 20-minute you pay $50, for a 45-minute you pay $100, and then if you buy your plants from us afterwards for the design, you get that refunded, so it becomes part of your plant purchase. So it's really just a deposit against your plant purchase. So really, our designs are for free, and normally when we do them, it's a two-man team doing it, and I think it's different to normal gardeners. It's often what happens, you have an appointment with somebody, they'll disappear for a couple of weeks, charge you a fortune, come back, and then they'll put it there, and you say, well, it's not quite what I want, and they say, oh, but it's what you have to have, it's really how it is, and stuff like that. What we actually do is we're working with the customer, and we're gauging what he, does he like. We make a mood board, and we put all the plants up there, and if the person doesn't like one of the plants, we just get rid of it. We don't say you should have that, we just get rid of it, and we put something there that they like. And so we put together a collection of plants that you like, and that can be done by Zoom or done in store, and then once you've approved that, then we sketch up and do a layout for you so that you know where to put those particular plants that you like, and that's how you get a garden. You have, if all the components are that you like, and if you like the shape and design of it, then you're going to like that garden, because it's both aspects that we do it, because we do it on the spot, and I really watch the customer the whole time, and as soon as I see them getting not really happy about what's going on, I go back a little and I change the design, or change the plants, or change something to keep them happy, so that in the end they have a garden that they love.
Amazing. Next question is, do you have any recs for looking after a new Petaserum hedge? When should I start pruning?
Okay. When they start growing madly in spring, when they start growing madly in spring, what you can do is just go along with your fingers, I call it finger nipping, and just nip some of the longer tips off, and that'll cause them to bush up, because Petaserums can grow very quickly in warm weather and become a bit sort of stringy and hollow, and by finger nipping them you can develop a really nice thick bush, so that when it arrives at the height that you want, it's nice and thick and bushy. It might take a little bit longer to get to the height that you want, but it'll arrive there as a thick bushy hedge.
Yeah.
And apart from that, they love a regular feed, and they love a drink. Don't overwater them, don't give them wet feed. But as we move into spring and summer, keep them nicely watered, and slip a bit of Osmocote on them every 6 months. They love a bit of Osmocote, and they'll grow like crazy.
Amazing. Next question is, do rocks at the bottom of the pot really improve drainage?
Yes, they do. But what you do is I'll mound them, and maybe not rocks, maybe more gravel or screenings. Screenings are probably more the answer, so it's fairly small rocks, and the idea is that it increases the surface area of the hole, so when you just put potting mix straight on top of it, it's sort of hard for the water to get at the hole, but by putting some screenings or gravel around it, and if you really wanted to finish it off nicely, you can put a little bit of kind of fabric over the top of the rock, so that you get so the dirt doesn't fill up the rocks, and you get a little bit of filtration there as well, and stop the dirt coming out the bottom. So if you put a mound of screenings or gravel over the hole, and then a little bit of fabric that can filter the water, then you've really got the perfect situation for it.
Amazing. Next question is, what are some quick tips to help plants grow faster?
Okay, so starting with the first thing is that plants want to grow. If you know and understand that your plant wants to grow, and I'll just give you an example. My father was really keen on growing English beech trees here in Australia. They were almost impossible, terribly expensive, and almost impossible to get when I was a kid. At any rate, he found a source of seed in New Zealand, and he brought the seed into Australia and started growing beech trees, but it used to take him about 4 years to get the beech tree up about 20-25 centimetres in height. It was taking 4 years, which was an awful long time. At any rate, so he studied up on how beech trees grow natively, and where they grow and why they grow and how that works. And what he discovered is that they grow naturally in broken limestone country. So I remember the year he did it. What he did was he got a giant heap of limestone, and he got a giant heap of limestone, cultivated his field with mountains of lime, planted his beech seed, and in 1 year they grew the size that it used to take 4 years. In fact, they were probably, after 1 year, they were even a little bit bigger. He was growing them about 30 centimetres in the first year by growing them in a very high percentage of limestone in the soil. And that sounds like I might have gone off on a tangent, but basically, if you study any plant and you work out how that plant, what environment it comes from, what its natural situation is, and you apply that to that plant. So this is a tropical plant. It wants it warm, it wants it humid, it wants a wet season. This is an arid plant. It likes and as you work at it, and it's a constant. And horticulture is all about a constant battle of trying to find out what the plant. So how do you make a plant grow fast? Like I've been rambling on about limestone and all sorts of things. You give it what it wants, and you give it mountains of what it wants. Like we just had an interesting thing in our production nursery. We were doing really, really badly with snow in summer, which is a really popular little silver ground cover. And it was just growing terrible, and the odd one was just dying, and they just weren't doing any good. And one of the nurserymen who's working with me said, "Look, I think they don't like the amount of moisture that all the other plants like." And so we made a little tiny patch that's exclusively for snow in summer, and we hardly ever water it, and they're absolutely booming there. They're going berserk. So it's a matter of finding out what a plant likes and then giving it what it likes. It's not just a matter of saying give it heaps of fertilizer. Like I said before, lavenders, you've got to be very, very thrifty with their fertilizer. So it's a matter of studying up, and these days it's so easy. You just get on the internet and you study up where it comes from, how it grows. You can look at the climatic zoning of it, and so how you make plants grow faster is you study them, work out where they come from, what they like, what they want, and you give them mountains of what it is that they want, and they'll go berserk.
Amazing. Next question is, new plantings, how often do I water?
Well, that's a matter of judgment. Like I'm telling a lot of my customers in Melbourne, I'm telling them that they should water. We're doing a lot of garden designs at the moment, and people are planning out new gardens. And I'm saying give them a good water to start with, and then if it stays the way the weather is now, you may not water again till October. And because we seem to be getting, like I looked at the weather forecast for this week, and we've got 4 or 5 days where it's going to rain in this week. And so and if the weather stays like this, and often August and September are the wettest months of the year, and then the heavy rains can last through October as well. And very often you don't really dry up till even November, but I've been saying October to be on the safe side. But so you've really, again, about watering, you've really got to use your judgment, because I've seen it quite hot and dry in September, but most years you barely water till you're into October. And so to say you water every week or every day or anything like that, you really could overwater your plants. And remember that the main thing a root is looking for is oxygen, and that applies to all plants. And therefore, when you water and waterlog the soil, there becomes a lack of oxygen, and that can actually so lots of water or too much water can actually harm a plant, because you're reducing the amount of oxygen that it's got.
Yeah. Next question is, what would you recommend for a native feature tree that would thrive under a gum tree?
That's tough, getting things to thrive under a gum tree. Just thinking about what I've seen do well under a gum tree. Most acacias are going to do pretty good under a gum tree. They seem to come up okay under a gum tree. And your native frangipani seems to, I think that's a bit of an understory tree, and I think that will do well under your gum tree too. So native frangipani and acacias should both be really good to grow under your gum tree.
Amazing. And just letting everyone know, we only have 5 minutes left, so if you have any questions, make sure you get them in now before we end this live. If you do come across a question in the following couple days, just join us next Monday, same time, same platforms. We do this every single week, so don't worry if you have something go wrong or you think about something later this week. You can, of course, also come in store, you can call us, you can email us, or you can come to our lives. Let's see, the next question is, how can I reuse kitchen waste in my garden?
So a big chunk just went past, I didn't hear that.
How can I reuse kitchen waste in my garden?
Right, kitchen waste is the best compost. And eggshells, even a little bit of steel wool can be really, really good. But what you've got to do is, if you just throw it out in the garden, you're going to get rats and things hanging around, and it's not too good. What you can do is make a compost heap, And if you have a heap of soil beside your compost heap, this soil actually really helps the organic matter decompose. But what you can do is you can make like a pyramid shape and build it up in layers, and then put soil over your kitchen waste. So get your... the worst thing I've ever done with kitchen waste was I bought one of those plastic compost bins, and it was just like a sort of a domey sort of thing with a plastic lid on it, and I threw all the kitchen waste in there for about 6 months, and it turned into a giant hunk of horrible jelly. It never decomposed. That's because there was a lack of oxygen coming into the bin. There was no oxygen flow. But if you do layers of kitchen compost, weighted in layers of soil and layer of kitchen compost and layers of soil, that stops the rats from feeding there, and it seems to decompose really, really well. And then after you've decomposed for 6 or 8 or 9 months, you can then get that, dig it over, give it a bit of a sieve and put it on the garden, and then the chunky old leftover stuff that didn't sieve too well, I put that in the heap to bury my next lot of compost. So you sort of make a pyramid and build it up and rot it down. And something I did as well as that is I got the cat using you can buy kitty litter made from lucerne, and lucerne is fantastic compost. And you can use your kitty litter and your kitty litter into the compost heap. If you're using something like a lucerne kitty litter, is fantastic.
Amazing. Next question is, hello from Central Wisconsin, Zone 5B 4A. Any suggestions on winter wind hardy flowering shade trees?
Winter wind hardy flowering shade trees. Wisconsin. We would have to check, but really beautiful blossom trees. Actually, we here in Australia, one of our favourite blossom trees, and one of my favourites, is a Prunus bleriana. What do we call them when we've got them?
Pink cherry plum blossom?
Yeah, it's the pink cherry plum blossom. You can see videos of that on our website. Now, it's very popular here in Australia, and it has a double pink, and I'm sure you can get it in the US. It has a double pink flower. It might be just often things are named a little bit different in the US, but the proper name is Prunus bleriana, and it has a beautiful double pink flower, and it's fragrant. And it comes really early in the season, and because it comes early, it lasts much longer than the later blossoms. You get a good month out of it, and that would probably be one of my favourite spring blossoms, would be Prunus bleriana. And then apart from that, you've got your crab apples, and these days if you look at your crab apples, I don't know all the names you're using in America, because we tend to use different names here, but there's some gorgeous crab apples around now, and I love crab apples because crab apples will certainly grow in Wisconsin. But you've got beautiful coloured, purple and pink and white flowers, and then you've got ornamental fruit, and the ornamental fruit you can cook, and one of the nicest jams I've ever had, we call it crab apple jelly. So, and it has a beautiful perfume and a beautiful clarity to it. So you've got an ornamental fruit and then lovely autumn colour. So a well-chosen crab apple would be hard to beat in Wisconsin, because you've got blossom, you've got ornamental fruit, you've got the chance of making some jelly, and you've got lovely autumn colour. And when the fruit and the autumn colour all together, they're wow.
Amazing. The next question is, I planted some Gaimea lilies that were growing really well here in the ACT until we got a bad -7 frost. Now they've gone brown. Do you think they will be okay?
They're very tough. They'll shoot again, and I'm really pleased to hear what you just told me, in the sense that I've always wondered what the frost tolerance was, and now I know it's -7. And because I've been nervous, here in Victoria, I've never had a customer lose a Gaimea, because we don't really get much below -6, and so Gaimeas, even I've got a property in Shepparton with my partner where we're building a nursery, and even there we're not worried by frost with the Gaimea. But so obviously Gaimeas have their limitation, and it's -7. And Gaimeas, if anyone wants to Google the most spectacular feature plant, if you want to have a fabulous feature that's not a tree in your garden, Gaimeas are fantastic. But what we've just learned is -7 in your area is a no-no for the Gaimea lily. But Google and have a look at a Gaimea lily. Fabulous feature plant. Really, really wonderful, and very, very hardy, and frost up to -7, but not beyond.
Yeah. Next question is, I usually trim my roses last week of July in Melbourne. Is that an okay time? My grandma and dad have already pruned theirs. Do I leave it too late, or do they prune too early?
I reckon that what happens is when you give that big hard prune to your roses, they start to shoot the next week. And I don't want my roses shooting and happening that early in the season, and I'd be more likely to go, I'm really into late pruning them, I'd be more likely to go mid-August. And at mid-August, because pruning them stimulates their growth, and so if you do it mid-August, you've got all the new shoots coming on as you're warming and going into spring. So I think but it seems to be an old-fashioned idea to get in and prune those roses early, and I think I don't like it.
Yeah. And the last question for today, anything to keep in mind after planting Cercis, golden leaf, eastern redbud?
Wow, I love the golden leaf eastern redbud. My question is, where'd you get it? I've been having trouble getting them. So you could DM us and let us know where you're getting those from.
They are in the Sydney area, so maybe.
I'm just curious because
they're somewhere there.
I love using them in my garden designs, and it's one of my favourite trees. But any tips? What they're going to like in Sydney? They're going to like a well-drained spot, and you want to keep them out of, like, you don't want them in a super exposed, like they'll take a bit of wind, but you don't want them in a super exposed windy spot. And they wouldn't mind a little bit of dapple shade or afternoon shade, like so out of extreme hot afternoon sun, not in an extremely windy spot, with nice loose deep well drained soil is the answer, and plenty of summer water and fertilizer.
Amazing. Well, that is it for today, just for this week though. And just a reminder that we do this every week, so we'll be here back again, same platform, same time, next Monday. And in the meantime, we hope you have a wonderful Monday. Do you want to quickly tell them about our live flash sale? That's
okay, so
Friday.
What's happening is we've got a live flash sale, and we've got a big promotion coming out this week. It's a live flash sale, and it's and the theme of it is the pink tutu kid rides again. At any rate, it'll be a little bit of fun, but what we're doing is we're going out and we're rounding up, there's a Western theme on, so we're rounding up 100 fabulous bargains for you to get into your garden this week. So 100 fabulous bargains for your garden, and we go to the growers and we're getting them to give us some real deals that we can offer direct to the public. So it's a way that the growers are able to clear a bit of stock. It's a bit quiet at this time of year, so the deals that get up will all be really, really good deals. And I take you through those 100 different plants. I'll tell you what they'd be good for. And so no matter what sort of garden project you've got, or if you've got a friend or a relative that's got a garden project, get them to tune in. And from that, you can order it, and over most of Victoria, we've got free delivery. So we've got free delivery when you spend over $300. So for most people, they could get free delivery when they spend over $300. So this is our Grower Direct flash sale. But what the big thing this week, we've got these $100 weeping cherries, and because this July tends to be a bit of a quiet month, with the $100 weeping cherries, if you spend over $300, not only can you get free delivery to places like Bendigo or Melbourne or Seymour or Yea. Not only can you get free delivery to those places, but we're chucking in a $100 weeping cherry, your choice of pink or white, for free. And that's going to be available to anybody who spends only one per customer, but that's the big news this week. So you can come to the live sale, or you can just come to the nursery, spend over $300 this week, and we've got a $100 weeping cherry for free.
Fantastic. Well, that is it for today. See you all next Monday or on the Friday.
Bye.